59 days rent back, and we're good to go.
So how long have you been part of our group here, or mentorship under Brandon and myself? Or whatever?
Like April, yeah, like April.
April?
Kind of, well, he helped me in the beginning, and then, yeah.
Yeah, I guess almost 4 months.
Yeah.
So now you, in the last week, you got a couple things announced?
Yeah.
It's more than some top producers. So you should be happy there. That's a
How
big,
many,
that's a
how
great
many
success.
is it in total that you
4.
had? 4, and then she's working on a purchase.
Yeah,
right?
we're gonna purchase her a place out in Simi, probably.
That's amazing. It's awesome.
Sphere.
You know, this business, it comes in ebbs and flows. I mean, it'll literally kill you sometimes mentally. You'll be sitting there wondering why God's cursing you or whatever, because you can't do anything. No matter what, nothing comes together. And then when it comes in a wave, and it just overwhelms you, and you're swamped and overwhelmed, and then you don't even realize now. Now all of a sudden you're thinking, this job's easy. I don't know why anybody was questioning it. It's totally easy. But it's not that the case. That's why it's good to have a support group to be able to help each other out and get us through these low moments and high moments. But believe me, you gotta keep working and stay focused. And the biggest thing we teach is to have a good persona. You can't be looking all grumpy and upset or depressed. Nobody wants to work with someone like that. We'll keep repeating that over and over and over. So you have to be able to shut it off, put it aside, whatever problems you're dealing with, and then come to work and turn it on. Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to add to it. So, one of the cool things that I've noticed, especially in this particular group, is the synergy that's been created. And I know, Jesse, I know you've worked with Leanna and you've helped her out, and you guys have done some things together. And it's just cool seeing agents work together, not looking at okay, well, how much am I going to make on this deal, or where am I at with it? It's just understanding. It's when you go in with the right attitude, the right approach. Everybody's saying how tough this market is right now, and it's not. I don't want to say it's obvious, but I'm not surprised to see the activity of what everybody's doing in here. And I know a lot just in my time in working with Ken. I was so grateful that the office I got placed in was in with Ken. I had no idea who he was. I remember seeing his marketing and his advertising and his name. I knew of his name, but I didn't know Ken. And the second we got put in the same office in the same area, since then I'm just so grateful for his leadership and what he's shown me and kind of checked me at times, and then kept my head in the right line of thinking. And that's what this class is for all of us. And that's why I'm grateful that you've taken the initiative to do it, because it's not by chance that we're doing what we're doing right now. And there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of research that's gone into it, there's continual just effort in terms of learning and growing and figuring it out. And so biggest thing is just be open, be coachable to it. You got to put a certain amount of faith and trust in it and just see what happens. But it's not just about learning it and not doing anything. You have to start applying it. And that's the whole key, is taking action and just start going for it. But we got some great, I already know just in terms of what we're going to talk about today, some great things to definitely just participate. It's not about having the right answers, just listening, trust it and see some good things. And Jesse, I'm just curious, your thoughts. What have you observed, not just with your mentorship with Ken, but just even since we've started this class? Has any light bulbs gone off for you, or anything that you feel differently, by being a part of this? Excuse me.
Yes, one of our classes a couple of weeks ago, we touched on connect, create value, close, and we talked about the steps to the sale. Just really re-hitting that again after doing some transactions. You forget that, and you forget about how to really connect with people, and then always closing and creating value. You forget about all the steps needed for a good sale. So that was important. And then working with Leanna and Juana too, because Juana and I just held open house together last Saturday.
Nice.
It's great connecting and networking with newer agents, or just say other agents in general who are hungry, who are willing to put in the time too. And it was great working with the both of them. They're both doing really well from what I can tell.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Appreciate what you're doing, bro.
I wanna.
Doesn't go unnoticed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I want to piggyback on what you're saying. Just for some of you that don't know me, I started. My parents moved away when I was 17 years old. I left here in this country alone. My parents moved to Argentina, left me here. I bought my first house at 21 years old. I'm gonna be 54. So I've seen 3 different ways of real estate. I've been in real estate since I was 21 years old. Got my license 21 years ago. When I got in, I found it to be natural for me. And it was, I don't know, it was something that I got hurt, and that's how I blew out my back, and that's how I got my license. But immediately, I was the rookie of the year, immediately started selling homes in May. Put things in perspective, minimum wage was probably $4 or $5, things are different. And average income for someone in a regular job with $65,000 was a good job. From May to December, I made $85,000 in my first year. And then I just went, whoa, what am I doing? This is what I meant to be doing. In 2004, I was young like you guys, and I was probably selling average of 20 to 25 houses a month. I was ranked in the top 25, 30 in all of California amongst all agents in sales, because it was just literally I would have $40, $50, $60,000 in checks. They would just sit there, and I just hand them to my wife every month. And again, putting things in perspective, price points were at $450, $500. That's $1 million now. So imagine just having, I would have to look to see if, sometimes I'd have them, I would almost throw them away because I wasn't paying attention. I'm not bragging about it, but this job can be very successful. At the same time, it is very, very taxing in every which way. It's gonna affect your personal life, it's gonna affect, I couldn't go to the parties with my wife. I couldn't go, I had to sacrifice like crazy. I was door knocking, I was doing everything it took. And I was literally going on, I would start at 8 in the morning and I'd end at 8 at night. I would have 4 listing appointments a day. It was either buyer consultation or listing appointment a day. It was overwhelming. And at the end of it, you would go, whew. And there was times that my wife was packing up the kids, we were going to a birthday party in Orange County, and I'd get a phone call and I had to say, I'll meet you there. I gotta go list this house. And she was just used to it. And it was a big compromise. It's not easy. Now that I'm older and I can pick and choose, I focused the last 10 years of my life only on my kids. And the reason why I did that, after receiving those big awards, I went to this huge, giant ceremony where I went to get these awards. And back then they would combine all the Century 21 companies. I started at Century 21, then we went to Troop, and then we went back to Century 21. But they would give you those little trophies, and it was a big event where everybody would meet together and get their awards. It wasn't like separate companies. All the companies go in one room. And I'm sitting on the table with 2 guys that are the biggest dogs in all of California. I'm third. The guy next to me that was second was about to have a coronary. He was gonna have a heart attack. 3-piece suit. We had pagers back then, and he couldn't breathe. And he's like, eyes were poking out of his head. He's like, bzz, 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 the whole thing. And he's like, it was like Darth Vader in a suit. and I said, hell no, I'm not doing that. He did double what I did. Double. And I'm going, hell no, I don't want to go to that step. You guys have the choice. That's the beauty. You're an independent contractor. You have the choice of where you want to be in this career. But it is a struggle. The good thing I will say, in all the years of training different people, I've worked with people, all sorts of people, everybody. I've mentored a lot of people that are very, very, very successful. But that being said, I love this group. You guys are amazing. Like the energy that I see here, I am afraid to bring in new people, no offense, because it is such a positive energy in here, and they're all helping each other. And it's hard to find that. And because of that, because you're in the right frame of mind, you're gonna be successful. And you have to just, don't look at your paychecks. Don't even account for them until you get paid. Because when I first got my first deal, which is a transaction, don't call it a deal, because you're not a car salesman. my mentor came up to me and I went, I got my first deal. And he goes, it's called a transaction. And I go, okay. And he says, 50%, congratulations. And he walked away, and I'm like, what an asshole. Like, I didn't get it, because it's not done until it's done. And as this market changes, as what we're gonna talk about, it's gonna be harder to negotiate the situation, because people now have a little bit of a say where they didn't before. Anyway, let's get started. Any questions? Oh, I wanted to finish up. So, Juana, what were you working on?
I have buyers looking in Simi Valley this weekend on Saturday. Me and Jesse.
Tell them the price point.
1.1, 1.0.
Okay, how do we get that?
Open house. Yes.
Okay.
Me and Jesse have a buyer. She's getting pre-qualified right now. And we met her in Mission Hills. And then Kelly referred me to someone as well. And so they're getting pre-qualified. So.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's another situation we'll get into. I don't want to take up the class and miss what the class is about, but a lot of this stuff has to do with relationships and trust. And you have to conduct yourself within this business. This is a small town. Do not burn your bridges. Keep your ethics, and everything we do, we teach morality, we teach ethics. You're missing out because you're starting a little late, but the first thing we want you to read is Think and Grow Rich, because it has a checklist on letting all this stuff go. But what I'm getting at is, she referred you to this client, and she called me about the client that you referred her to, and I said, look, you're not only getting 25% on the buy, if she sells, she also gets 25%. You would have never known that.
No.
But it's the right thing. And that's what we have to adhere to that. I'll tell you a story, just to give you an example of that. I was doing an open house, had people come in, and then I went to farm the area. I had an agent in the office. She says, I'll go farm it with you. We drop flyers, we're knocking on doors. We leave, I get back to the office. A couple days later, I get a call, I want to sell my house in that farm. I call the lady up, and she says, and I said, where did you meet me at? Was it from the open house, or was it from the flyers that I did with that lady, that other agent? And she says, I don't remember. So I called Robin up, who was the other agent, and I said, look, don't worry about it, but somebody called me on this home, and I'm gonna list it, we're gonna sell it, but you don't need to do anything, I'll just pay you when it's set, because I don't know where it came from. So we sell it, or I sell it, and I said, hey, your check's in the mail. And she went, for what? I said, that buyer, or the seller. And she goes, oh my God, I totally forgot about it. And I paid her, because it was the right thing to do. I didn't know where it came from. I don't want it coming back. She sees a listing and we work. You're gonna have plenty of opportunities. You have to separate that greed. Do not get that stuff in, don't be that way. 6 months later, Robin comes up to me and she says, your check's in the mail. I'm like, what? She says, I didn't tell you, but I also picked up a buyer and we just closed and your check's in the mail. I would have never known. But we have a great relationship because of that. Because believe me, it bonds you in a way that you'll never forget, because it's just the right thing. And there's not a lot of people will do that. Don't let the greed set in. All right, so today we're going to start with, we're going to go back to this guy who's sort of pretty monotone, but he's the guy that we're using he's a negotiation expert. Some of it we're recapping because some people didn't pick up on all of it. We're going to talk about the anchors and things again. So hold on.
Those are Ken's kids.
Oh,
There were little ones.
That's a little old picture. They're way older.
frame your price.
Negotiators, like all human beings, have irrational tendencies. One of them is to classify information by comparison. For example, your salary is a good salary if it is better than the industry average, better than your neighbors, or a better salary than you had at your last job. Such comparisons are useful to evaluate progress or performance. However, these kinds of comparisons can also be counterproductive. In a depressed labor market, a bad salary may indeed be good versus no salary at all. You already know people react very differently to identical proposals when the perspective or frame changes.
Can you pause it real quick?
For example, most people calculate how good a deal they got on their new car based on the difference.
Okay, no, just real quick, did you guys hear that about the depressed market? What he was referring to in comparisons? So comparison's really important, but the depressed market, you wanna touch on that real fast? Just
Yeah,
in
so
terms
we were
of-
gonna get into, I was gonna let him finish that one part, but we're gonna take what he's saying, because he's talking about general sales, and we're gonna talk about negotiating, this is what this is on, but understanding how this applies to real estate. So we are in sort of a depressed market. Now, things have changed. You know, for example, what do you think a buyer was thinking 3 to 4 months ago? What do you think the mentality was as far as if you were representing a buyer? What was he thinking?
They're
Like,
gonna go over asking.
what was that?
But they're gonna put it over asking.
Have to go over asking, right? What other things were they giving away or compromising on?
Their home inspection, they're waiving their contingencies.
Waiving contingencies, right? You had buyers that were coming in solid, 20-25%, couldn't get a home. Were giving away, they were getting rid of their contingencies. There's a sense of desperation. There was 10 offers on every home. We're talking 3 months ago. What's the mentality? What's the seller thinking? What's the seller thinking in that market?
I'm gonna make over 100,000 over asking.
I'm gonna make 100,000 over asking.
Multiple offers.
Multiple offers,
As is sale.
as is sale. It's
Sold in days.
sold in days, and I can go on with whatever. Well, what do you think a buyer's thinking now?
I'm gonna wait till the price reduction hits.
Right, they're thinking like, I want a good deal. I want to see the interest rate's too high. What are the negative, what other things, or what are things that buyers are telling you right now?
I wanna see what happens with the market, I wanna wait.
Do you think
Because
they're
it's-
overbidding?
No, they're underbidding a lot of the time, because homes just stay on the market longer. The days on market's almost double,
And what are they underbidding about?
20 to 50,000 depending on the home.
How do they come with that conclusion? Who came up with that number?
With obviously the agent, but in days on market,
Okay, we're gonna talk about that a little bit. And then, what do you think a seller's thinking in today's market?
I'm still gonna get what I got 3 months ago.
I'm still gonna get what I got 3 months ago. You're right. You know, all these things, and he's gonna talk about as we get in here, you can't frame or discuss negotiations or even talk to your clients until you have an understanding of what it is that they know. You have an assumption that people know your business. You have an assumption that people understand real estate. You have an assumption that they know that the market shifted. Well, do they? Does the seller know that the market? Does he know that they're getting 50,000? I will tell you this: if you take a listing that's overpriced, guess whose fault is it? It is. It's yours. It's not the market. It's yours. You did a crappy job. How could you not sell my home with multiple offers over asking when the neighbor did? And it just closed last week. Not knowing that it went into escrow 2 months ago and it was a 60-day escrow. Totally different market. And that's crazy, right? Well, I mean, we've only gone a few months. So, how would you assess the pricing of a house now? What are the discovery questions we're gonna ask when you come up and you go to a listing right now? What are the things that you're gonna ask? How are you gonna figure out if that home is overpriced or priced right, if you're representing a buyer? What are the things that you're gonna do?
Look at comps.
You're gonna look at comps.
Ask the agent how the activity's been on the house.
Exactly. So comps aren't gonna tell you the story anymore. The comps are gonna tell you the old pricing. Okay? It's a good guideline to see if they were even, within the, let's say the comp said, $1 million, and they have it priced at $950, then you go, okay, he was actually sort of aware and took a deduction based on that. But the other thing you're gonna do is you're gonna call the agent. And what are the things you're gonna ask the agent?
Do you have any offers in hand?
Do you have any offers in hand? Why is that important?
Shows if it's priced right. If it's priced right, they'll get an offer. Well, it might be lowball too.
It's desirable.
Mhm.
Because things are still selling. It's not that it's not selling, it's just it has to be the right home. So when you're working with a buyer, what's a good deal? What's a good deal? What do you think a good deal is, Juana?
Under asking.
So you're relating it to price. You are, because he said under asking, you're
Right.
using a price. You guys have, what else is it? What's a good deal? Is it Sweeney?
Kelly.
Kelly. I just remember because I know Sweeney family.
Please call me
Kelly.
Sweeney.
Okay. What's a good deal?
I mean, I'm thinking price too, that's what I'm thinking.
That's what most people.
Okay,
Yeah.
everybody's gonna lean towards price.
Yeah.
Interest rates.
So you have to figure out what someone's orientation is or motivation is. Okay? So there's questions you're gonna need to ask. Everything in our training, whether it's a listing presentation, whether it's working with a buyer, is about the knowledge that you hold. And how you get that knowledge is about discovery. So you have to go in and ask specific questions to figure out where they're at. Like, I have a job transfer. I have, I'm retiring and I can't afford, I lost my job. You have to figure out what the motivation is of that buyer. It also works for the seller when you're working on the listing presentation, but let's work with the buyer. You have to figure out, my kids need to be in there by summer, school starts next month. I need to be in there. They say, you ask these questions. What's your situation? Well, I'm renting, I'm tired of renting, I wanna buy, I need a tax write-off, whatever it is. All that stuff is gonna lead you to their motivation on time, on pricing, and what's a good deal? A good deal is getting them in the home on time. A good deal is that, hey, I start a job next month, I just relocated, I need a house for my family. Totally different. It's not always about price. Price does not always equal what someone's looking for.
So instead of saying deal, think of outcome. What's the desired outcome that they're looking for, right? Deal, you think of price, you think of opportunity. It's got to be a deal of a lifetime, right? What are they trying to accomplish? And so we have to discover timing. He talked about motivation's important. You just want to identify and understand what it is they're looking for, and you figure it out by asking questions. So when somebody says, well, yeah, I really want to get a good deal, or I want to get that, well, tell me a little bit more about that. What does that look like? Well, prices have been so high, so then they get to pricing. Really what they're looking for, it's not about the sticker price, it's about a payment that they can handle. There's two key things. So what I wrote down here is when he mentioned risk, when you hear pros or cons in every situation, I'm always going to ask that in an open house. I'm going to ask that if I'm showing property to a brand new prospective buyer. What do you like? What don't you like? But really what I'm saying is, what benefits are you looking for? So these are the two words. More benefits or less risk? What risk are you trying to avoid? Okay? Those are the two things. You either got to take the risk away, or they're looking for more benefits. What value do I get by accomplishing this goal? That's going to be the motivating factors, and they're going to talk about it coming up here.
No, and then, so some key factors are price. Some people are price sensitive. They, determining, getting it at the right price,
Right.
what they believe is a good price, is important to some people. The home is a motivating factor. What if it offers everything they want? RV access, pool, those are motivating factors. The person says, I need this. Believe me, I don't care what the market's like. If you have a house on a beautiful lake with it's totally done up, it's gonna sell.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. So it comes down to location, it comes down to the size of the home, it comes down to
It's
the
utility.
bedrooms, it's how it fits that family and what they've been looking for. So that's one thing. Reasons for moving, we just talked about that. It's job transfer. I have whatever that is. Illness, anything, death, anything, divorce. Divorce is a huge one. That's another situation. Benefits of owning a home. What are the benefits? I need a tax write-off. I'm tired of throwing my money away on rent. You know how much rent is right now? So the point of all these questions, and there's more, but the point of these, let me just finish the list so you can get opportunities. I have an opportunity to get again, what's the opportunity? What's the definition of that? Do I have an opportunity to get a fixer? I get an opportunity because I need it because I get a job transfer? What is that opportunity? You have to dig deeper. Is it an opportunity because I finally get a 6,000 square foot in North Ranch in Westlake for $1 million less than it's been going for? That's an opportunity to someone. I just had that happen. That's an opportunity. He wanted to sell everything immediately to try to get that home because it was an opportunity, and as far as an investment for him. Payments. He talked about payments. I want to stay within this payment. The size, the function, the distance of commuting. Those are all benefits. And this home, you may be paying a little bit more, but it's 10 minutes from your work. That means I can stay with my family, I save on gas, it's safer. This is a conversation. When you deal with buyers and you deal with listing presentations, my actual class on the listing presentation is not called a listing presentation, it's called a listing conversation. Okay? It's a 3-day, 2 hours a day class, 3 sections, not 3 days, it'll take 3 Wednesdays, we'll probably do it next. But it is about having a conversation. You have to treat these people like they're your family, like what's in their best interest. But without understanding what it is that their needs are, their necessities, the discovery, you can't frame your proposal. You can't frame your listing, you can't frame your buying pitch. And condition of the house would be another one. But for example, let's talk about pricing. You can tell people right now if they said I'm price sensitive. Well, how about taking some credits instead of lowering the price? You guys missed out on this, but it's super important that you know this. If you take, I'm gonna write it up, but if you take an $800,000 house and it's been on the market for 50, 60 days, the likelihood of it being reduced is pretty likely. It's probably gonna be reduced. And when they reduce them, they don't reduce them by 10 grand, it's usually $20,000 to $25,000. Maybe 10 grand, but it's usually 10 to 20 to 25, more likely 20 to 25. Because what significant difference is it gonna make lowering it 10,000? If your house isn't selling, lowering it 10,000 is gonna be insignificant. So you will start seeing huge reductions. So as these sales go through with these huge reductions, the way the appraisal situation is it'll be a different picture. So the way an appraiser sees values right now, the way the computer sees values, like you said, comps, the systems that we use, which the RPR, it doesn't know that the market's adjusted. How could it? It's been 3 months. A computer, it's illogical. It's illogical. Because you know why? Because it cannot compensate for fear and uncertainty. That's what's driving this market down. It's not anything but fear and uncertainty. You think that the demand has gone down? No way. You know, CME had 1,300 homes in the market, condos, townhomes, everything. There's 220 still, but but things aren't moving the same way. Why is it that a house had 10 offers and now can't get one? What happened to the other 9 buyers? They're scared and they're not educated properly. It's your job as a professional to educate them and train them how to purchase a home. They need you. And if you're scared because you're unsure, how are they going to feel? If you don't know what the hell you're talking about, how are they going to feel? So you're the professional in every which way.
I just want to tie this all together to, like, it's always important to understand the reasoning of why we're going over this right now. And we've been practicing this in objection handling, so I know those of you that have been at the objection handling role plays know what question have I been asking, or what's the most common objection that you're hearing, Leanna, that we talk about?
Well, we talked about like
On the buying side, what are they saying?
they don't know what's going on with the market. They're waiting for it to crash.
Waiting for the market to crash. We're waiting, the interest rates are too high. All of these answers, which you do in a proper objection handling. So does everybody, do you know what an objection is? Does everybody know the definition? How would you define an objection? Laura, you're quiet.
Can I Google?
Yeah, no, what's an objection? Why do we practice objection handling? What is it?
I don't know how to
It's
say
okay.
it.
It's
I mean,
okay.
I know, but I don't know how to say it. Like something against, like a thought against something.
Yep.
Like a problem.
Yeah, no, that's good. Any other definitions of an objection?
Reason to say no.
Reasons to say no. What else?
Or overcoming
Overcoming what?
their objections, problems or.
No, it's good. Go ahead.
An unanswered question, an
Un-
area of concern,
So unanswered question, what would you say, or what?
area of concern.
Or area of concern. So think of it as, one of the things I learned through Danielle, through one of her trainings, is everybody's at a point A. They're somewhere. So you're identifying where are they at today. They all need to get to a point B. Your job is to figure out, how do I figure out how to motivate them to get to their next step? So as you're looking at your clients, if you're doing intake sheets, if you're tracking them, where are they at? Where do they need to get to next? That's your job. An objection is an unanswered question. They have a question in their head that they may not even know what it is. Your job is to help them discover what it is, and then once they answer, if somebody knows all the answers, they feel comfortable, they're willing to move forward. If they hesitate, so an objection is a hesitation to committing to the next step, right? That's what we're doing. So right now there's a lot of hesitation to buy a house. There's a lot of hesitation to sell a property. Those are objections. So they're gonna hit you with, well, the market's gonna crash. So how do you respond to it? Most agents don't know how to. Everything that we're doing here, you ask them questions to discover. So if they say, you're waiting for the market to crash, that's great. Let me ask you, why is home ownership important to you? Why do you want to own a home? And you got to dig deep. And they're going to tell you the benefits and the reasons of why they want to own a home. So I didn't say that the market wasn't going to crash. I didn't say, oh, well, that's crazy. I don't make them wrong. I repeat and affirm. Oh, so you feel the market's going to crash. Well, that's interesting. Or you could say, that's great. Right? Let me ask you, why is home ownership important for you? Right? And you got to dig deep. And then they're going to draw to this. So I just want to be able to connect the dots of why, like, this is gold. And if you're, I hope you're writing down all the reasons of why somebody wants to own a home. And then the more that you understand that piece of it, you're always going to be able to put business together. You're always going to help people do it. And you want to do that at times like now, because all the other agents are uncertain right now. They don't know what to say. They don't understand, and so that's where we have to focus on the fundamentals and master these fundamentals, because when you understand this, everything else gets a lot easier. And that's how you put the business down. Ken, I would always ask a question to Ken, and I already know the answer, or I know Jesse up there knows the answer. When's the best time to buy?
I mean, now,
Why? When's the best time to sell? A few months from now?
I don't know.
It's now. The answer is always now. Okay? That sounds like a sales pitch. It's the reality. The time to buy and sell is now. When somebody asks you, Ken, how's your business doing right now?
Excellent.
Excellent, right? Regardless of what's happening, whether you got
Amazing.
10 in escrow or none, it's amazing, right? How's the real estate market, Ken?
Excellent.
It's excellent. What do you mean it's excellent? I hear the market's crashing,
We have an
man.
opportunity right now.
What do you mean you have an
We have an
opportunity?
opportunity right now.
What does that mean?
I'll tell you why. Because you had 6 months of comps that are still standing. So what that means to you is, I can take an $800,000 home, and your payment would be $3,800 with a 5.5% interest rate. But because we still have those good comps, and they're about to reduce the house, we can just ask them for a credit. You know what that does to your interest rate? Drops it to 4.5%, which will lower your payment by $30 to $3,200. You're going to get historic low interest rates and get the payment that you want in today's market. But you only have a short opportunity to do this before the appraisers catch wind that the values aren't there anymore. So all we're doing here, what Brandon's talking about, is when someone has an objection, you need to give them a logical answer to make them feel comfortable into moving forward. So when you start making sense of things, it goes, oh, that makes sense. Like, why would I pay $4,000 in rent times 12? How much is that? That's, what is it, 60? No,
50,000?
$50,000?
Close.
No,
40,
48,000.
48,000.
48,000. $48,000. My writing's terrible, but $48,000 in rent. 1 year. How much do you think the housing market's gonna crash? Are you gonna lose $48,000? Maybe, but then you'll be even. Even if you buy,
5 years, that's $200,000.
yeah, if you keep renting for 2 years, what are you waiting for? You can take advantage. This will go up, and guess what? Every point that goes up, you can afford $50,000 less. So it's so easy to justify buying now by taking advantage of why you do this. And guess what? It's not $48,000. There's an additional $500 per month. You know why? Carrie? Kelly? All right.
Tax write-off.
Tax write-off. So now do the math.
Throwing money.
They're throwing money away. And they're waiting for what number? You're waiting for this to go to $750? Ask them, would you buy this now at $750? Oh, absolutely. Okay, you are.
Yeah.
Let me show you why. And then they're gonna go, I didn't think about that. Did you know you could fill out a W-4 form and change your exemptions, excuse me, and then reap the benefits of that $500 a month every week? You adjust it at the end of the year, you don't get a refund, but they'll take that much less. It's like getting a raise. You can afford it. You can afford, it's not only gonna be 32, minus 500. And I used to go further with that when I was starting out. I would tell people, because a lot of people struggle. You know, they're first time buyers, they're literally, scraping into, look at how everything's expensive. Everything. You can't go to lunch for under 15 bucks anymore. That's ridiculous. Just to grab a quick little meal. So believe me, when you tell someone, guess what, your rent is due on the first of the month. Guess what happens if you're late? You get penalized and eventually you get evicted. On a mortgage, you can go 15 days. And it's the same payment. So what does that mean to you? Well, you get into a bind, that's 2 extra weeks of paychecks coming in. I mean, you can justify anything. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in trying to discuss and justify anything. But how do you justify it to a seller?
So you gotta discover first.
First discover.
That's the key.
You have to discover. And we talked about asking the agent. You're asking the agent, let's keep going with this. Call the agent up. Hey, you get any offers on this? No, nothing. And believe me, and I would tell you this, even myself, when you're caught with listings in a market that's adjusting, it's horrible. It's horrible. I have 3 listings I can't sell. And I have to hear, every single day I have to hear a phone call from these people asking me, why isn't my house on? Are you marketing it enough? I get questions like that. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And it has nothing to do, but ultimately it comes down to price. It comes down to price. And the fact that, you know, the majority of buyers aren't educated properly. The lenders aren't even telling them the right thing. You call them up here, qualify my buyer. They spit out a price, a payment. And they're going, holy crap, I can't afford that. Last year it was $1,000 less. And you go, and you talk to your lender, you go, why did you say that? Did you even tell them other options that we could use these credits? Did you tell them? But if you just throw out a number like that, of course they're gonna go freaking out. Or if they're listening to the news and that's the reason, is our industry has to start acting like professionals and start educating people that it's still a great time. And they'll figure it out. It takes time. But when it plateaus, not plateaus, but settles, now people go, oh, this is a good time. People were buying homes with 17% interest rate at one time. You still have divorce, job transfer, death. You need a home. So it's when things will finally come to some kind of settlement that they'll go, okay, this is the deal. Because what's created? The anchor. This is the interest rate. I don't want to get off topic. Going back, call the client, the agent. The agent says, what I was getting at is, when they're stuck with a home that isn't selling, that agent's going to tell you the world. They're going to tell you everything you need to know and how to put in that offer, because they don't want the listing anymore. They will give away, they will undermine their relationship with their client completely. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What
That
happened?
just happened last week.
What happened?
There's,
What?
for the people who know Simi Valley, there's a townhome available on Redwood Drive. I think it's unit number 2. I had some clients who were interested in the property, now setting up for showing. It's been on the market for, I think, just under 30 days, and they haven't reduced the price yet. I called the agent to set up the showing, and that's all I was intending to do. I wasn't gonna ask any other questions, just to confirm my clients want to see it first. She kept me on the phone for probably 7 minutes, just talking about the kind of activity I've had. She's like, I could probably get you $20,000 credit. My seller really needs to move. We need to get this sold right away. He's willing to negotiate. And I could have submitted a lowball offer, probably 40,000 below, and gotten it accepted. I'm pretty confident about that, because she just told me so much information about her seller.
The other thing is, you walk into a house, you're showing the home now, and the homeowner's there. And you say, hi, Mr. Seller, thank you for having us over, I really appreciate it. And they're looking around, and the guy says, do you have any questions? And just ask me, no, where are you going? Well, I'm moving, I need to be out of state. I got a job transfer, I need to go, I'm done. But I need to sell this place, I need to be out of here by next month, or I'm gonna actually lose my bonus over there. Oh, okay. And so have you had any offers? No, nothing. I can't believe it. I don't even know what's going on. My neighbor just sold in 2 days, but I'm getting nothing. You know that guy is just totally undermined the offer, or undermined himself. You know, my offer is going to be totally different now. Never let your clients speak to never let them speak to the prospective buyers, because they will, it just happened to me. Literally, these people showed up early to the open house, and he was giving away the farm, not knowing that this agent already had prepared an offer way higher. So it got to and because of his desperation, they didn't even want the house. Because people want something they can't have.
Yes.
If it just sits there and then you're sounding desperate and nobody wants it, well, neither do I. You want something that everybody wants. So you have to sort of keep that excitement going somehow, and not give out too much information. You know, you just have to not undermine that you don't care about the, you're representing your buyer. So you're gonna interview the agent, you're gonna interview the homeowner, you're gonna do whatever you can. All that is called what?
Discovery.
Discovery. So, anything else you wanna add to that, Brandon?
That's good.
Let's see here.
Didn't mean to intercept your whole, thing
No,
the message. No, but just even understanding when he talked about a distressed market, yeah, there's a shift in the market, but he said something about a salary at one time usually is compared to what's the industry average, right? So you can compare yourself as an agent. Okay, how much money am I making in real estate? And compare that to somebody else that I think I'm either equal to, better than, less than, whatever the case is. It happens all the time. Then it says, well, some salary in a certain distressed market is better than no salary at all. So I was always brought up under the belief that a little bit of something's better than a whole lot of nothing, right? And so in certain markets, you'll take any listing at any price. Right now, you need to be very careful about what listings you take. Still be willing to take the listing, but you need to be very direct with the sellers and say, look, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear to get the listing? Which is what I know the other agents are going to tell you, that you can get this high dollar amount? Or do you want me to tell you what you need to hear to get your home sold? To get you to X, Y, and Z by this date, right? And they'll always say, and I use that line all the time. Not what you want to hear, what you need to hear. And they'll say, obviously, I want to hear the truth. And then you're direct. Say, this is what I truly believe you're going to get for the home. I don't say truly believe. I say, this is what you're going to get. I believe it's going to be in this range. And nobody knows for certain until we list the home. We do it in the way that I'm going to share with you how to list the property. And then from there, we'll see, based on showing activity, what's happening. Now, if we're not getting showings, and no offers are coming in, what does that mean? And I'll ask them that. What does that mean? It means I'm overpriced. Exactly. So nobody truly knows until it's on the market and it's fully exposed. And then we'll show them stats in terms of days on market. It's another thing. That's another class. But
No,
it's important to understand.
When you're dealing with these negotiations, is what they are. It's all a negotiation. You have to understand what the buyer's thinking. We talked about the questions you can ask them. You have to understand what the seller's thinking. You have to understand what the selling agent's thinking, and you need to understand what you're thinking and what you know. More so what you know. What does the seller know of the market now? Is he realistic? What does the buyer know? Are they informed with what's going on with the interest rates and the discounts, or that there's even an adjustment? The biggest mistake we make as negotiators is underestimating or overestimating, thinking that everybody knows everything. But I'll give you a simple dumbed down example is, last week we had a lender come in here and he was talking about his business and loans. And he was rattling out all these loans, assuming what?
We knew what they were.
You knew what the hell he was talking about.
Knew the terminology.
Yes.
We don't. Your buyers don't know. They may know something they read on Facebook. They may have a friend that bought a house. Maybe they do know something, but do they know everything? No. And they don't want to know everything. They're busy with their own jobs and their own things. It's your job to educate them on what's going on and set expectations. So, like the lender situation, he was rattling all this stuff out, not knowing that we don't understand what he's talking about. And I had to ask him, what does that mean? Tell us what that means. I knew what it meant, but nobody in the class did. And it wasn't until he started explaining it, but he assumed that. So when you don't have that knowledge, and I come up, let's say he came up to you and said, what do you want, an FHA or conventional? Based on what I just told you. You would have been, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know the difference. I don't know what a good rate is. I'm counting on you and telling me. The worst thing that lenders do or agents do is, don't worry about it. We'll just take care of it. Don't worry about it. You make the person feel stupid. And they're not going to want to move forward because they're uncertain. Don't worry about it means I'm getting screwed. So don't do that. Explain it to them the way it should be explained. And as much, you have to repeat it, if you have to dumb it down, if you have to give examples, you have to tell a story, whatever it is, you have to share with them examples, share with them experiences, share with them things that just happened, share with them things you're going through that you personally just went through. But share and explain to them so they go, oh, I get it. I get what you're telling me. And then ask them, do you understand? Did you get it? You get what, does that make sense to you? Is a polite way of saying it. Does that make sense? They'll go, yeah, or they'll go, no. Or you can look at them and they're just looking at you, no, they don't get it. So you gotta dig deeper. But until you understand what people know in every single area, you cannot start the negotiations. Same thing when you take a listing. You think you know when you're walking in there that it's gonna be about price. And it's not about price all the time. And I shared this story before, but a few of you weren't here. I was doing an open house, somebody came in and said, I'm thinking about selling my house. And I said, oh, where's it at? She says, over here, down the street. I said, I might have a buyer for that. Oh, really? I said, well, let me come by and look at it. I think they'd be interested. I look at it and go, wow, this is exactly what they want. Would you mind if I show it? No, I don't. Husband's in the back, totally ignoring me. And the wife's chitty-chatting, and sharing everything. Go to show the house. My people go, I love it. I want this home. But we can't afford the amount that this house would sell for normally. I said, okay, well, let me see where they're at. Call the lady up, go, hey, you know what? My people love it. They want to buy it. And then the seller, the husband, gets on the phone and says, listen, I don't want to be jerked around. You're like the fifth guy that's told me this. Do you really have a buyer? I go, yeah. And I go, but here's the deal. They can only go they can only afford this amount. And I have to tell you, based on what I've seen, you could probably get this amount and maybe more if we put it on the market. And then he says, look, here's the deal. My wife's got cancer. He goes, I'm a very successful musician. I work for the Conan O'Brien. I'm traveling. I just want to make sure my wife is not in pain. I could care less about $50,000, $60,000. Doesn't mean, I don't want to be bothered. So if they can come up to this amount, the house is theirs. And we sold it. And he probably lost $100,000. Because I don't know what the bidding war would have been. It's a unique home. It's not always about price. You don't know. And it's your job to discover what it means. In the listing presentation, we will have certain discovery questions and a way of asking it. You can't just come into someone and go, why is it? And they're like, dude, I don't even know you. There's a format. That's why people make a mistake, is when they go on a listing presentation, a presentation is from A to B, but a conversation is like this. It can go anywhere. So you want to have a conversation. You don't want to have this thing and starts here, ends there, because they're not going to open up. They're going to tell you questions. They're going to give you answers that are with reservation. They're not going to be clear with you because they don't know you. You haven't built that trust. Part of our listing presentation is going to be just walking through the house with them. Would you mind, Joe, Mary, would you mind showing me around the home? Yes. Okay. Can I ask you, what does it mean to be selling your home, Mary? Always ask the wife first. Why? Wife will tell you everything emotionally. I'll tell you, it's horrible. We're leaving. We're gonna move early. My kids are still in school. They're gonna miss all their friends. But my other son's okay with it. This one's not. And I said, okay. And John, what does it mean to you to be selling something? Well, I get this bonus. I get this other job, and the cool thing is I'll make more money. I get a bonus, and my wife can stay at home. She doesn't have to work. It means a lot to me, having my wife stay at home. Okay, that makes sense. That's just one example. But as you go through, when you go back to it, when you're giving the presentation, say, look, Mary, I understand. understand what this means to you. I understand that your child is going to be missing his friends, but John's going to get this promotion. You're not going to have to work. You're going to have way more quality of time with your child. Doesn't that mean something? Yes, it does. I mean, I get it. I get the big picture. I really do think it is in our best interest. Okay. Well, this is what we need to do. And I'm just giving you one example of it, but it is a conversation. Now, if you just sit down and go, why are you selling your house? I'm like, dude, it makes no sense. That doesn't make any sense. Don't be robotic in your job and the way you operate. You have to keep it real and care about people. And it'll show. People will understand that. So let's get back to this. I'm going to let it play out. You need to add anything else?
That's good.
Okay. I'm getting off topic on this whole thing.
We've covered a lot though, so that's good.
This thing will not allow me to
Do you guys have any questions, just in any of the subjects or topics we've talked about? Come on, I put you on the spot, you gotta put us on the spot here. Hit me with something. Leanna, you good?
Congratulations.
Right here.
Was it okay?
Not really.
No? Not good.
No, black mold.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he said that whole unit is shot.
We'll deal with that later. This thing kicks me out.
That's why you don't like pausing it, right?
No, it's terrible.
Dude, you only got like 5 words in when I said pause it. So
I know, I was like, oh, what the heck? Sorry, guys. We're just gonna let it play out and listen to it again.
Frame your price.
Try to listen to what he said and put it together with what we
Like
just
all
talked
human
about.
beings, have irrational tendencies. One of them is to classify information by comparison. For example, your salary is a good salary if it is better than the industry average, better than your neighbors, or a better salary than you had at your last job. Such comparisons are useful to evaluate progress.
I
or
got this
performance.
house for 10,000 more,
However,
or
these
less,
kinds of comparisons
in this market,
can also
last
be
month.
counterproductive.
Not now.
In a depressed labor market,
It's a depressed
a
market.
bad salary may indeed be good versus no salary at all. You already know people react very differently to identical proposals when the perspective or frame changes. For example, most people calculate how good a deal they got on their new car based on the difference between what they paid compared to the manufacturer's suggested retail price, conveniently stuck to a window. In this case, the sticker price gives you a perspective or frame of reference for you to compare what you actually paid or might pay for the automobile. The sticker price is a base figure or frame of reference that negotiators use to judge offers, adding or subtracting to the base figure to make a judgment. So, since people like to classify information by comparison, you should provide them comparisons or frames of reference throughout your negotiations, but especially when you are negotiating price. In doing so, you make it easier for them to not only understand your price, but to also justify your price, both to themselves and to others they must convince. In order to use framing effectively, you first need to determine the other side's basic orientation. Are they primarily risk-oriented, or are they primarily opportunity-oriented? Are they motivated by not taking chances, or are they motivated by seeing the positive parts of a new experience? Once you know the other side's basic orientation, you can frame the whole transaction in terms of that orientation, either reducing risk or increasing opportunity. However, you need to include both risks and opportunities so your proposal is complete. Additionally, you need to frame your price. What is your product or services equivalent of the automobile manufacturer's suggested retail price? Is it your official list price? Is it your special sale price because of a certain promotion program? Or is it the price you choose based on your best judgment the first time you mention price? Regardless of what it is, choose your frame very carefully, because the other side will see it as your opening price, also known as an anchor in negotiating jargon.
Brandon, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what an anchor is? Let you stand up and do your thing.
I mean, anchoring, I'll just give an example really quick. So the anchoring piece is critically important when you start negotiations, okay? I do a lot of what he talked about first is the discovery aspect first, okay? You wanna know what they know, what they're thinking. So an example, so I had a pitching machine, I know I shared this with you just recently. Building a batting cage in my backyard. And so I get a lead that, hey, this guy's trying to sell his pitching machine. So I'm doing a bunch of research and I'm looking out there and seeing what a brand new pitching machine would cost. Like the basic elementary one. And on the low side, you're looking at spending about $1,800 plus shipping. Shipping's gonna be about $250 for standard shipping. Could be about 4 to 10 weeks wait time. Then if I wanna do a 3-day shipping, it's $500, right? So we're already looking at $2,200-$2,300. Well, with anchoring, what was interesting is when I asked the guy, oh, so I hear you're selling one, I asked, okay, what type is it? So I can do some research on it. And then I said, how long have you owned it? What made you pick that one instead of getting, you know, this popular Jugs one is one of the brands? So I'm doing discovery and he's not really answering my questions. I got the model type and then I'm trying to figure out what price. And he wouldn't give me a price yet. And he's like, well, what would you be willing to offer? And then so I, of course, now I talked to my wife about it. Well, what do you think? She's like 800. I was like, there's no way he's gonna take $800, right? Like it's at least gotta be somewhat in range, but I do wanna negotiate. So my anchor was $1,200 to show at least enough. It's like, look, I can do $1,200 cash. And he doesn't respond for almost a day. And then he comes back and he said, well, it actually cost me about $4,800 for everything. This is top of the line. It's got 3 wheels. It's used in the pros, used in NCAA. So as I'm getting more info, now I'm seeing what he's thinking. But because I started with that anchor at $1,200, he doubled it, but I didn't want to pay over $3,000. That's really where my number was at. So now he came to $2,400. And he says, and I'll include the net. Well, the net was $700 just for the net alone. This is 55 feet long, right? $700 for that. So if I want to really hit this guy, I can already subtract 700, get right where I wanted to be. Well, I didn't. I wanted him to feel like he won, and so I gave him the full. I said, throw in that net. Then he's throwing in more. He's throwing in L screen. That's another $200 to $500. Now he's really trying to make it feel like that I'm winning because I made him feel like he's winning. Does that kind of make sense? So the anchor, the key thing is you're thinking of working with buyers and sellers. It's very important on the first person who says the first price. It's critically important. So as much as you want to hear, because yeah, maybe he would have said $800. I really don't think he would have said $800. Because even at $1,200 going to 24, he probably, like Ken's probably thinking, man, that was stupid. You could have met him in the middle, got it at like $1,700 and been good. I could have, but also as he's taking pictures, once he dug it up and got it, he's cleaning it up. Now he's thinking in his head, well, shoot, what could I get this for over here? And once, if he did any kind of research and saw what shipping cost was, I got free delivery, puts it on his truck, save $300 to $500 right there. I get it in days as opposed to having to wait 4 to 10 weeks out once he knows the shortage demand of it. If I wanted to put this thing back on the market right now, I know I can make minimum $3,000. So now it starts coming on me and I share with Danielle, I'm like, we need to lock this thing up. Because if I wait a day or two, he posted up just to see he's gonna make more money than what he's selling here. Does that all make sense just in terms of kind of the process? So the anchor, the key is that first number. Any questions with that? Is that a good example? You're like, what the hell am I gonna do with the batting cage now? Right? Well, come over. You guys hit some balls.
So that was a good explanation.
Was it?
Very good.
Okay, thanks.
So you
I'm glad you approve. I'm just, I'm still seeing some kind of lost eyes over here.
But your
that
anchor,
first number is key.
your anchor is the like he said in this recording, you feel excited when you buy a car if you get it under the sticker price.
Mhm.
You're automatically negotiating something that they put on there themselves. But I get it under that, it's a deal. I pay over that, I get ripped off. You don't care about the features, you don't care, all you're doing is getting in a point of, you're just wanting to win based off that number. It's the same thing when you list a home, you gotta make sure that you don't list it too high. Because if you list it too high, in this type of market, it's really hard to convince them, after you convince them to list it at that point, that you were wrong. So they're gonna go, I'm not doing that, I can't, I'm not gonna sell it for that, that's ridiculous, because they're set in stone. Sometimes you'll even take a listing and you're telling the guy, look, your house is worth $1.2 million. That's it. And the guy goes, look, I want to list it for $1.5 million. The market's hot, I want to try it. And you're like, you want the listing? And you're like, I'll tell you what, why don't we list it at $1.4 million, $1.350 million, with the agreement that you know this house is worth $1.2 million. You understand that? Yes. Well, people have amnesia. Believe me, they will say, I never said that. You better make them sign it.
Mhm.
Sign it. This is our value here. Don't get stuck, because they'll get stuck on that. And then you're screwed.
It's called the modification of terms. So you have your listing agreement, your RLA, and then you have a modification of terms. So you have them sign the agreement and the modification of terms when you take the listing. We'll give it 2 weeks at your price, or you can give them 3 weeks. We'll give you 3 weeks at your price. But that's the hottest time. And we're gonna miss that window because we're starting at your price, not my price. But the only way I'm gonna take this listing, because I'm invested in this as well, my reputation, the amount of time and money that I'm gonna spend with you as a client, it's gonna cost me at least $1,200 to take photos, to market this, print brochures, do the things I need to do. And if it doesn't sell, I'm on the hook for that. So I need, as part of this agreement, and I'll say this in my listing presentations, as much as you're interviewing who you want to represent you, I'm interviewing you to see if we can work together for a successful sale. Does that make sense? So you flip it on them, but you have them sign that modification of terms at the same time. It's probably, I don't think anybody's probably had to do that yet. Jesse, have you had to do that one yet?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Modification of terms.
Yes,
So,
I remember
and then
that.
when you do adjust the price and do a price reduction, you go to the modification of terms and then do that. But you want to do it up front. That anchoring's key though, and I would say you want to be almost willing to walk away from the listing if they don't get it to a realistic price. Because if they don't, they're gonna forget, and now they've anchored the price at 1.5 million. They're like, well, I already went down 100,000 or 200. You overpriced it to begin with, over 200,000.
Right.
So we're not going down, we're just getting it to where it should have been at the beginning. But now, you got a negative stigma on your house, because nobody's written an offer for over 30 days.
And what happens during a market that's adjusting like now? That 500 is 700. The 1.2 is not even realistic anymore. You're going nowhere with that sale. You're wasting your time because you're stressed out because they're calling you every day. You're showing it 1,000,000 times, and it's not going to sell because you overpriced it. Homes that are priced correctly right now. Hold on.
Would you refuse a listing if they were adamant 1.5?
I have in the past. If you're in your situation being new, I probably would never refuse a listing being new because you don't have a lot to go with. I would for sure have a major conversation with them so they have a clear understanding in writing, knowing that this is what you are advising, but you're willing to do it to see what happens because you never know. Sometimes you put something on there and it happens to be a guy relocating from the Bay Area, which happened in my neighborhood. House was worth $1.3 million. The guy paid $1.6 million because it was a deal. You know, it's
Is
just
that
like
more than 3 months ago though?
It was, but you know,
It can happen.
it can.
Just right now, you want to be a little bit more careful. There
Yeah.
can be a reload type thing. The one thing I would caution you with that though,
Yeah.
is the longer your sign's out there in a neighborhood that you
Gives you
want to
stigma.
farm and market, exactly. Now you're the agent that can't sell in that neighborhood. So you're doing more harm to your reputation 30 days after you list the price, list the home, versus not. And unless you can get your seller and you're strong enough to get them to reduce, every conversation has to be about getting that price to where it needs to be. So it's, just be careful with that, because you can do more harm to your reputation than not, especially early on.
Yeah.
You wanna start off with some wins.
When you guys are starting, you're gonna want either Brandon or myself to go along with you. Because we're gonna take control of the situation and assess it, whether it's worth it or not. And there, believe me, there's not, like the house I have on Snow is actually priced correctly, and it's a deal. But what people don't get is that in the adjustment, it's not just about price, it's about time. So in a regular market, it's not uncommon. My spiel in a regular market is it takes 3 to 4 months for a home to sell. People are used to 1 or 2 weeks. But that's not a normal market. 3 to 4 months is a normal listing period. And until people get used to that, you're not looking like a superstar. But what happens in the time? What happens in the first 2 weeks of a listing? Like, what happens, what's the first 2 weeks? Why is it so crucial, first 2 weeks?
Well, share, if you don't mind, share what your experience was. When we priced a little bit higher than what I really felt that it should have been listed at, I wanted it under 250. What did she say?
259.
259. So we went 9 over, which was still within range. It's like, yeah,
Right.
let's give it a shot. And guess what? We got a full price offer.
Right.
One though. How many showings did you have?
The first week it's 8 or 7 or 8.
So 7 or 8 showings in the first week,
All right, so
and everybody loved it, right? How many people said they were going to have an offer coming over?
3.
3, all
7 to
cash,
8
right?
showings.
7 to 8 showings first week. One was all cash. What happened in the all cash?
They didn't agree with what the association said.
Right. So HOA said that they couldn't do something to the backyard,
Yeah.
so they're already being strict, so they were gone. There was another one who reached out to you directly through Zillow. What happened with them?
Dad talked her out of it.
Yep. Dad says don't do it, right? Then what else? Who else was supposed to write an
I
offer?
had another one come in and she's like, "Oh, my buyers won't be qualified in time," and they're still not 100% sure, but they love the house.
Right. 2 other agents, one who's an agent in this office and another agent who I've known just in the past, both great agents, both like, oh, let's hopefully put something together. Didn't hear anything from either of them. So you hear, now this should be a hot property, $250,000 in this market. It's a mobile home, but in a family park.
And we're the
But-
only ones on the market.
Right, only one in the whole park, so it should be just flying, right? We got one that came in, but what did I say to that seller after that week in terms of trying to get her head in the right place? That we had enough exposure, we had plenty of showings come through, we had enough people who said, and she was like, oh, I thought we had other offers coming in. So we exhausted everything. We need to be really smart with this one offer we had in hand here. Really smart with it, and she was. She didn't counter it in price. We tightened it up just a little bit, and it was a done deal. But you do need it, and that's why it does, as Ken's saying, bring one of us to it, because there's so much that needs to happen. It is an art. It's a way of speaking with people in a way that allows them to win, but you don't set them up to lose either. And if you just let them run wild, they're going to screw themselves up, and they don't even know. They just don't want to be taken advantage of. So they have to have that faith. And I asked, I said, what are you stressed about? What are you worried about? What she said?
Finding
At
the
the very
next
beginning.
home. Finding my next home.
Finding the next home and the stress of trying to do both of them together at the same time. So we also had to come over the objection of giving her the comfort that the best thing to do was to sell, do a 2-month free rent back. So, or not free, we did $1,500, so we did it at her rate. Normally it's supposed to be PITI what the buyer's paying. So she's at $1,500 with like a $700 space rent, which is super low, right? And I wanted to protect her from having to pay like $3,000 a month to stay in the same place. So we, instead of saying let's get 2 months free rent, we said $1,500 a month for the 2.
Yep.
Give her the peace of mind that you want to be cashed out, non-contingent buyer in your next purchase. So the great thing is we called on an offer that she wrote on, and she showed her property. Well, at that time, there was only 2 offers in hand. I thought it was gonna have at least 5. It was at what, 7? 7 offers. So it was a condo in Simi, under 400,000, had a 2-car garage, had inside washer dryer. So I put it on speaker. So as we're both having the conversation with the agent, she hears the questions the listings agent's asking. And I said, look, you're contingent. You haven't even accepted the offer yet. And we still have so much risk that's involved. It's not that I want to kill your hopes and dreams that this isn't going to happen, but I need to assure her and take the risk factor out. But still, if I'm too cautious and I do what's called a home of choice, that's way too conservative, then she never becomes a strong buyer on the next side. So I knew she has a backup plan for at least, hopefully a couple months, but we have to close this one with the buyer who wants to buy it and then sit in it for 2 months after the fact with money in the bank, and now you're a non-contingent buyer. Does that make sense? So it was, but the call was very eye-opening because that agent just basically, she was very sweet, very professional, answered all the questions, but said, yeah, well, that's going to be a big factor, is the fact that you're contingent. So sometimes you need that. So it's not just you as an agent doing it, but I knew exactly how it was going to play out. I knew what questions to ask that agent to help educate my client so that our client doesn't make mistakes. Does that make sense?
So whenever Brandon keeps mentioning objections, you guys need to translate that as, what are the benefits I'm going to give to them in an answer to overcome that objection? That's what you always have to be thinking. What are the benefits I can give to these people to overcome that objection? What am I going to tell them to overcome that would make sense to them to make them feel more comfortable in moving forward? What are the benefits? There's always a benefit in everything.
Can you give an example?
Well, like we just talked about, the price, I want to wait. Well, the rent, the tax write-off, all that stuff are the benefits. Why not to wait?
And the example, just through what we went through, right? What was her biggest concern? Her biggest worry was doing both at the same time, but she wants to put herself in a position to win. The benefit was, how do I become the strongest buyer?
Okay.
Because as long as I'm a contingent buyer in this marketplace, it's going to be slim pickings. It's going to be pretty tough. I may be able to write on something that nobody else wants, but if I want to get something that's desirable, how am I going to put myself in place to win? So once we figure that out by asking questions, that's the benefit. How do I make myself stronger? And once she got it, now we're gold. Now it's like, what do we need to do? No, that's the route we want to go. No, not that route, not the safe route. We want to go the aggressive route where we close this deal. Money's in the bank, but I get to stay here for 2 more months. If I need to, I'll go to mom's after that.
I want to ask you guys a question. You've heard this conversation. They're both going back and forth. They're in it. It's hard to jump in it when you're not in it. They're in it, so they're feeling it. You guys are spectators on it. I'm sure you're listening, but sometimes maybe it's going in and out. This is a lot to handle. Let's say that lady's mobile home didn't sell. Let's say they didn't have an offer and you needed to reduce the price. What are some benefits or some ways of persuading her that she needs to lower the price? Based on the conversation that she just, if you were listening to what they were saying, what would motivate her to lower the price? Does anybody know? Did you hear something that she said?
I'm trying to remember what you said. The seller's biggest concern was it was finding the next house. So you could tie something back in together with that. The sooner you get it sold.
That's exactly right. Her motivation isn't her home. Her motivation is finding the next home. So the sooner you get this sold, the faster you're going to get into this. She's revealed that to you by saying that.
Through discovery.
Through discovery.
Through figuring out what her motivation is. And then after you list the home and you have the conversations in the future, they forget about their motivation. All they think of is, well, that's $10,000. I can't afford to give up 10. Well, it doesn't really make sense for me to do it. Well, share with me again. I already know the answer. Share with me again. Why is it that you want to move from this place? Why do you want to get to your next place? And we already know it, but I want her to say it, because I'm tired of this HOA maintenance, tired of all the rules and regulation. Tired of the maintenance of the property. It's just me. I'm divorced now. I don't know how to fix things. I don't want to worry about any of that stuff. I want something I can move into, that I have my dogs, freaking dogs. How many dogs do you got? Like
Three.
Three little dog yappers running around, right? I need a place where my dogs can go and it still works, but that's it. So that's all the motivation, so you remind them of that. So just remember that leaders are great at casting visions and helping people focus on the right things. Your job is to help them focus on the right things. And they're going to be pissed off about whatever, and it's usually money related, or time, or why isn't it selling, or whatever. And you have to get them refocused, because we know that every home will sell if it's at the right price. Okay?
So, in her situation, in any situation, the first 2 weeks you have the most exposure. This is when you're going to get the interest of people. You're going to have 7 to 8 showings, 3 offers, and as you get into week 2 and 3, you'll get 1 or 2 showings. Because what is the perception that's happening here? What's the, if a house in a market that everything was selling in 2 or 3 weeks is now 30 days in escrow or listed, what do you think a potential buyer is thinking, Kelly?
There's something wrong with it.
There's something wrong with it. What could be wrong with it? The condition, the location, right?
Right.
What's the other conclusion you would have,
Overpriced?
right? And what do you think you could persuade the seller, or why do you think you could persuade the seller into taking a lower offer? Because what do you think, or what are you assuming that they are feeling? Maybe that they're desperate.
Pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure, right? Because time is ticking. Every buyer's agent and every buyer is taking advantage of this time as the clock ticks. And they're thinking, this guy's desperate and he's gonna lower it because he needs to sell without knowing anything about them. That's the conclusion. Everybody makes that conclusion.
Can I add to that, Ken? Can I add to that really
Yeah.
quick? Okay, so this is a key number that you guys want to become very familiar with, is days on market, on the buying and on the selling side. This is a key stat. So we're already into the new month in August. So go to Flex Market Summary Report, pull up whatever city you need, Simi Valley, Camarillo, Oxnard, Moore Park, whatever, or a zip code, and print out the last month's stats. It'll show you average days on market. You need to have that average days on market number down. So now, if you're a buyer's agent, this is something very important in terms of coaching. You have to set proper expectations with your buyers. They want a good opportunity. They don't want to overpay for a home. Then you want to start coaching them to start looking for homes that are on the market longer than the first few weeks. So most buyers, naturally, the second they get pre-approved, they're ready to go, home hits the market, it's beautiful, they want to see it the first day. Okay? You have to start coaching them and setting proper expectations. We don't want to do that for a whole bunch of different reasons. Because say you like it, say you love it, and you want to write on it. You write on the very first day, you write full price. What does the seller think?
Underpriced it.
I can get more. I underpriced it. It does no good for you at all. So you're gonna go through more frustration. We already talked about the shiny penny. That's important to understand that concept. We'll bring it back. More importantly, I want you to understand the days on market. So what I tell sellers is days on market is your enemy. Okay? The longer we see more days on market, it's gonna hurt us more in terms of negotiating power. So we want to price it well, know the difference between price and value. Value's desirability. We want to create as much buzz as possible. The way we create the buzz and the way we know we're doing it right is showings. If you're getting showing after showing after showing, you're getting calls. Hey, what's up? How many offers do you have? I got clients that are really interested. You want hot property. If you go to Redfin, you want it to say hot property. I've seen it say hot property and not gotten a single offer. And I had to do a $20,000 price drop. But it was priced really well. That was the one in Oxnard, had it listed at $819. I dropped it $20,000 in 4 days. And the seller was like, what do you mean 20K? I said, trust me on it. We got one full price offer at $799. FHA. Then it appraised low on top of that. This was about 3 months ago. This is before the market fully shifted. Okay, so I already saw what was happening before it was happening, and I was coaching my clients so that we did good. Well, 2 more came on 100 less than that on the market in the same neighborhood, less than 300 square feet smaller. So it would have cost us another $50K if I would have just waited a few days, or I was soft with how we priced it, or in terms of leaving it overpriced at $819. Okay, so just remember, days on market critical. Set proper expectations with your buyers. Say we want to see the home on the market for at least a week, at least 7 days, if not 14 to 21 days. Because then when we show it at that point, it's exactly what Ken's, teaching. How's the seller feeling? I've had 10 showings. How is your seller feeling after having 7, 8 showings, 1 offer in hand? Did she seem pretty motivated?
Yeah.
100%. If no offer comes in and you've had 10, 15, 20 showings, you're freaking out as a seller. When do you think's the best time to negotiate? After those 10, 15 showings? Or you're the very first showing and you write a full price offer? You see what I'm saying?
So guys, this
You have
comes
to
down,
set those
it comes
expectations.
down to intelligent pricing. That's why you're doing this. You don't wanna, it's in all your CMAs. Talks about intelligent pricing. It's your job to take control of the situation, and like this guy said, you frame it, you give your pitch, but you tell them the pros and cons. So this is a paradox that's going on here. This is the first 2 weeks. This is the second to third, fourth, going to the 4th week. Who's in the driver's seat here? First week, the seller. First few weeks. As this teeter-totter goes this way, into going to the 3rd, 4th weeks, it becomes the buyer's in the driver's seat. Why does that happen? Juana, why? Give me examples of why the seller would be in the driver's seat, and then after, why would the buyer be in the driver's seat?
Because it's on the market. They know that they're gonna start getting desperate and they can go lower on the price.
Right. And why would the seller be in the driver's seat at the beginning? What would happen if they price it right?
If they price it right, they'll get full asking.
And what else? Possibilities. What other possibilities?
Over asking.
Right. And what other possibilities?
Multiple
offers. What does that mean to a seller if they get multiple offers? Kelly.
They have the upper hand to negotiate.
Right. So they're less likely to have to negotiate on repairs, on a lot of different terms in contingencies. Because when you're in multiple offers, that person that wants the home, they get that auction mentality, and they know that if I lose this, there's a plan B that's about to take my spot. So they're not going to be such a pain in the butt. They're going to just want to be smooth and get it done, because they got no power. The seller's like, buddy, either you fulfill your agreement, or I'll just go to plan B. Switches. Goes into this part. I got nothing else. Now the buyer's doing their inspection, they're going to ask for the world. And still doubt whether it's still a good deal. They want this, they want that, and they started going through a laundry list. You're helpless when it gets here. This is the pros and cons of listing your home incorrectly. You have to educate your clients.
Think of what a seller would think if you're doing your listing presentation, able to draw something out like this for them to help them visualize and understand how critical the timing aspect is. This is important to get them to understand. It's also important, you don't want to completely shoot yourself in the foot, because if it doesn't sell in the first 2 weeks, they're going to freak out. And so, but you got to show them, say, hey, look, we're not getting the action, we're not getting the activity. That's where you future pace them, set the expectation. I'm going to talk to you every Monday, same time between 3 and 5 for about 30 minutes. We're going to talk about what's happening, how many showings you have, how many offers came in or didn't come in, right? And all those conversations are all about what? The price, right? And getting it to the right price. So if we don't have any showings and activity, we're not going to say drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. But that's why on our 12 steps to Summit of Success, it says drop it every 3 weeks, a minimum of 5%. We have to. This is the type of market it's talking about. Saying in 3 weeks, if you've got nothing, no offers, you better be ready for a price reduction. So we have to already set that expectation to get in front of it. Because if we don't get in front of it and get it to the right price, it's gonna get worse and worse, and that buyer has more and more leverage. And then if you finally convince them to drop it at the right price, then you may be lucky to get one buyer, and that buyer is gonna hose your sellers through the transaction.
All right, let's take a quick bathroom break,
Yeah.
and we're gonna finish up. We got a half an hour left, so we're
Okay.
gonna go on a new topic, and better